When fake HOA security drove their Jeep down our private hunting trail, flashing fake badges and barking orders, they didn't realize my grandpa, a Korean War vet, was watching from the ridge. By the time they tried to leave, the old man's steel tire spikes were waiting, and so was the sheriff. The first sign of trouble was the sound of tires crunching on gravel, a sound that didn't belong out here. Grandpa and I had just finished clearing brush along the northern ridge when a silver Jeep Wrangler appeared through the trees. Its blacked-out grille catching the morning light. Two men in dark uniforms stepped out. One tall and stocky, the other wiry with mirrored sunglasses. The words Maple Creek HOA Patrol were stenciled on the doors, bold and official-looking. "Morning, fellas," the tall one said, walking right up to us like he owned the place. "We got a report of unauthorized activity on HOA property." I wiped my hands on my jeans. "Show property? You're about 3 miles outside your boundary, partner. This is Collins' land." He looked me over, unimpressed. "Got a call from a resident. Said someone's been hunting too close to their lot. We're here to check it out." Grandpa leaned on his walking stick, his weathered face half hidden beneath a camo cap. "Boy," he said, his voice like gravel and authority mixed together. "I've been hunting this land since before your mama was in pigtails." "You boys are trespassing," the wiry one smirked. "We're with the HOA. We can inspect common areas." I held up my phone. "Show me your credentials." He reached into his vest and flashed what looked like a cheap laminated badge. Silver plastic, badly cut. Grandpa didn't even blink. "That's not law enforcement," Grandpa said flatly. "That's a keychain." The man took a step closer. "Watch your tone, old man." That was it. Grandpa didn't say another word. He just turned and walked toward the cabin. That usually meant one of two things. Coffee was ready, or trouble was about to get very real. I stood my ground. "You've got 10 seconds to turn that Jeep around and drive off my land." They exchanged glances, then climbed back in the vehicle, tires spinning dirt as they reversed down the trail. I watched until they disappeared around the bend, but Grandpa knew something I didn't. Those men weren't done. When he came back out 10 minutes later, he was carrying a small wooden box, heavy, worn and labeled "Do Not Touch," 1962. Inside was a set of steel tire, spikes he'd built decades ago for unwanted visitors back when poachers used to cut through the property. "You can't be serious," I said. Half laughing, he just grinned. "Son, when people come here pretending to be the law, they're not confused. They're planning something. You let me handle it." We set the spikes across the only exit road, covered them lightly with leaves. "If they're dumb enough to come back," he said, "they'll learn the hard way that some land still fights back." It didn't take long. That same afternoon, the sound of the Jeep's engine came echoing up the ridge again, louder, angrier this time. "Guess they didn't like being told no," Grandpa muttered, lowering his binoculars. We watched from the porch as the Jeep stopped near the cabin clearing. This time there were 3 of them, the 2 from before, plus another wearing a full black vest that read HOA Enforcement Officer. "Who do they think they're fooling?" I said. "They're not fooling anyone," Grandpa replied. "They're trying to intimidate." The men got out, spreading out like they were running some kind of tactical sweep. One started snapping photos of the trail cameras I'd mounted. Another pulled a clipboard and began scribbling. I walked out with my phone recording. "You're trespassing." "Leave now before I call the sheriff," the tall one sneered. "We are law enforcement for this area." That's when Grandpa stepped out. Slow and deliberate, holding his old Winchester rifle, not aimed, but carried the way a man does when he's serious about boundaries. "You boys ever serve?" he asked calmly. The new guy with the vest hesitated. "Excuse me?" "You're pretending to be authority," Grandpa said, "but your posture's all wrong. You're not cops, and you're definitely not military." The wiry one took a step forward. "Put the gun down before we—" Before he could finish, a sharp click came from behind us, our motion-activated camera locking onto their faces. Grandpa's voice cut through the silence. "You're being recorded. Every second. Now you've got 5 seconds to start walking." They backed up slowly, muttering, then turned and jogged to their Jeep. I kept filming as they sped down the trail, right toward the exit. A few seconds later, we heard it. Thump, 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 bang! The Jeep's front tires blew out like gunfire, the rims grinding into the dirt. Dust rose, curses flew, and Grandpa just leaned back in his chair with a satisfied chuckle. Guess they found the spikes. We stayed put while they tried to fix the mess, one of them shouting into a cell phone. 15 minutes later, a real sheriff's truck pulled up. I figured this was it, the moment things could go either way. But when the deputy walked over, Grandpa greeted him with a nod. "Afternoon, Mark." Turns out the sheriff's deputy knew Grandpa well. The deputy took one look at the fake badges, rolled his eyes, and said, "You boys realize impersonating law enforcement is a felony, right?" The color drained from their faces. Grandpa leaned toward me. "Told you," he whispered. They weren't confused, they were crooks. The deputy confiscated their fake IDs, their HOA patrol stickers, even the Jeep. When I showed him the video footage, he just laughed. "This'll make the report easier." As the three men sat handcuffed on the ground, Karen, the infamous HOA president, showed up in her minivan, screeching to a stop. "These men work for me," she screamed. "They were protecting HOA property!" The deputy shook his head. "Ma'am, this land isn't HOA property. Never has been." Her jaw dropped. I stepped forward, holding my title deed. "Your security just trespassed and impersonated law enforcement on private land." "You might want to get a lawyer," Karen's face twisted. "This isn't over," Grandpa smiled. "Oh, it's over. You just don't know it yet." The next week was pure chaos for the Maple Creek HOA. Turns out, Karen had been using HOA dues to pay for her so-called private security force, which was nothing, more than a few local troublemakers she'd hired to patrol nearby lots she thought were part of her neighborhood. When the county investigator came out, he was furious. "You realize you're operating as an unlicensed security agency? You could be charged for endangering residents." Karen tried to play innocent. "We were just keeping the neighborhood safe." But the county clerk had already pulled the old boundary records. My family's land, the entire ridge, the trail, and the creek had never been annexed into any HOA jurisdiction. Grandpa's tire spikes and my video footage became Exhibit A in a very public scandal. Local news picked it up. "Fake HOA cops arrested on private land. President under investigation." Karen's husband resigned from the board within days. The HOA's insurance dropped them. Their security patrol Jeep was auctioned off by the sheriff's department. And as for Grandpa, he became a bit of a local legend. Folks at the diner called him Spike Collins. Someone even brought him a framed photo of the popped Jeep tires as a gift. One afternoon, as we sat by the cabin porch, he looked over at me with that sly grin. "You know," he said, "I didn't spike that road because I was angry. I did it because men like that need to learn something. When you cross a line you don't own, you answer for it." I nodded. "Think they learned their lesson?" He chuckled. "Oh, they'll remember. Every time they see a no trespassing sign." By fall, the Maple Creek HOA had dissolved. The homeowners voted to disband it after learning their dues had been misused for years. Karen sold her house and moved out quietly, the same way bullies always retreat once they meet someone who doesn't flinch. The old hunting trail? It's quieter now. The deer have returned. Grandpa still walks it every morning, coffee in hand, proud as ever. Every once in a while, he'll look at the road, tap his cane, and say, "Justice ain't always written on paper, son. Sometimes it's written in tread marks."